Hey everybody, welcome to Commercial Construction, Elevate the Industry podcast series hosted by yours truly, Dave Presida, and I am happy to be here with you today. Thanks for joining us. The purpose of the podcast is to help everyone from owner to intern in the construction industry understand the industry better so you can make the best decisions about how you want to move forward and where you want to go. Today we are really fortunate to have Casey Robb, who is the principal of Robb Consulting Services. They help construction companies develop their business. We're going to hear about Casey's future, and I think at the end of this whole episode, you're going to say, hey, how can I change? Because that's what we're going to focus on. Casey, welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your invitation to join you today, David. I really do. I look forward to this, and I look forward to helping others out there too.
Well, there you go. And we're going to help because we're going to talk about change today. And originally, like I always write an episode description, and I started writing it, and it's Contemplating Change. And that's how you and I met. But I kind of changed that to not contemplating change, but embracing change. Because I think that's really what we want to get to. We're going to talk about personal change and changes in your business, why it works, why it doesn't, things that impact change. But we're going to start first with you. Because you're a perfect example of someone who's been through a lot of change. Talk about your history.
Well, as I got out of college, I went into field engineering for a contracting division of a major construction company in the power and process end of things, back in industrial construction, when times were booming, when the power plant industry was just rocketing out of control. I mean, we were first coal-fired, then nuclear, a lot of oil refinery expansion, early 80s. I was a field engineer, contract administrator. I was on 18 different projects in like 6 months. It just was crazy. And I ended up learning a whole lot about coal-fired plants, nuclear plants, refineries, things of that nature. And then what happens in the mid-80s, this market just completely tanks. And that didn't happen in commercial construction quite as bad, because here in Atlanta, we were just building all the high rises that you can see in downtown Atlanta. But in industrial construction, it hit a wall. And a lot of things happened to cause that. But I found myself unemployed on Christmas Day one year and literally had to turn around, look in the mirror and go, okay, how am I going to, put food on the table for my wife of a few years and my new son? So had to scramble, move around. I actually stopped in St. Louis, Missouri, back in good old Midwest, and hooked up with the AGC and talked to the head of the AGC in St. Louis. And I said who I was, introduced myself, and he said, you need to go down and talk to this guy. He's hiring. So I went down, talked to this guy. We had a great conversation, and one thing led to another. And I shifted gears and got into a smaller contracting role. And then about 8-9 months later, I didn't really like what I was doing there. And I jumped into the building product manufacturer side of things. And I've been with them ever since. What I found was the skill sets I learned on the contracting side of things really helped bring credibility to the building product side, influencing design firms and design professionals around what to specify, what to do, and how to deal with construction. And so that's where that all started. And I got real active with CSI, Construction Specifications Institute. And in fact, I was president of that organization nationally in 2013 and 14. And through this whole process, I've worked for major building product manufacturers. I worked for Thorough System Products, which is now BASF, Master Builders. I worked for Dow Corning, which is now Dow Sill. I worked for DuPont Building Innovations for about 10 and a half years as their commercial sales manager. And those experiences connected me with a whole number of people out there. So in, I think, 2017, I started this consulting role, and I really enjoy it because it helps me with other companies, building product manufacturers wanting to expand in the commercial market. So I help with their strategy, tactics. I help with their education and training on helping their reps become better at influencing the construction market. And then third and foremost is that execution side. How do I get out there and really make the things happen? And then I like to defer back to this change because I've gone through this change numerous times in my career. You know, you hit a blind spot, you hit a roadblock, and you got to make a change. So it's happened to me. I've been laid off. I've been hit in the face. I like the Mike Tyson quote: "Everybody's got a good plan until they jump in the ring and get hit in the face, and then you got to react to it." And I think this last year, 2020, we've been hit in the face big time with a bazooka, and we're having to not only rally around the changes that are happening and embracing new ideas and new technologies, but we're seeing them happen faster now than ever before. So that's a little bit on my background.
Well, that's interesting you said it, because when you said you lost a job on Christmas Day, and you looked in the mirror, it reminds me of what happened to me. I used to teach. I love teaching, but just couldn't make a living doing it. And in 1 week, in my third year teaching, I taught 4 years. In my third year teaching, I found out that I wasn't getting a head basketball coaching job that I was promised by the superintendent. Boom. And I got turned down for a $27,000 mortgage because I didn't make enough money. Boom. So I didn't know what I was going to do, but I didn't let it get me down. I said, okay, you're going to love teaching, so maybe you can find something else, and I didn't know what it was, where you can teach or coach or both, and I did in business. So let's talk about the types of change, because you were a part of it. Forced change, you lost your job. Elective change, you decided to make a move. The first two things you said, all right? So let's look at some other forced change. You mentioned COVID. Oh my goodness, right?
Yeah.
COVID, forced change.
I also, a lot of times I'll reflect back to the first Gulf War. That blew up a lot of things for people. I found myself, I still had a job, but I had to transfer to the Southeast and become a different role for my company. The second Iraq War, we went from 28 tower cranes in downtown Atlanta, which we were booming through the mid to late 90s, to 2 tower cranes in 2002. So, 380,000 commercial construction jobs were wiped out because of 9/11 in Atlanta, Georgia.
And then you've got the downturn in 2008.
Yeah, exactly. And that one was a ripple effect too, because the first couple didn't affect my network quite as much as the 2008 one, because we were getting older in our careers, and the grayer your hair gets, the more money you make, the easier you are to get rid of. So my network really moved in 2008. Fortunately, I didn't get caught up in that as far as a layoff, but I did get reassigned. I got reassigned into a regional capacity from a national capacity. And my boss goes, "You're good, you're safe, but we want you to cover the West Coast from Atlanta." So I put up a lot of Delta miles because of that change. But change happens, and you have a choice. You either adapt and improvise and embrace it, or you make a change yourself and go out and find something different. And that's that second kind of change we're talking about, where you personally make a decision to invest and do something different.
I think that stems, Casey, from your desire to be more or to do more. Look, there's nothing wrong with somebody who has a job their whole life. That's fine, right? The world's made of a lot of different kinds of people. I'm not that way. You're not that way. I found that I am the happiest when I'm learning. And if I'm doing the same thing for a long time, I'm probably not learning a whole lot. It's just me. Mm-hmm. Okay. And I usually, do an elective change, and I have. There's an adage that it's maybe overused, but I think it's true. It's like the difference between you now and you 2 years from now are the books you read and the people you meet.
Oh, good point. I like that.
And I think that really does hold true. Now, I know folks that know you a lot better than I do, and they say one thing about you is that you are positive, that you want to make a difference. And that's got to be what drives you. But regardless of forced or unforced change, right? Your attitude has got to have a lot to do with your next steps. Is that true?
I completely think that's true. And I will echo that sentiment by, again, we get in a comfort mode. I had to make a big change from contracting to building product manufacturing. I went to work for several big corporations, got in this corporate environment, and thought that was my destiny. And when I got laid off the last time, I went several months without a new job. And that's when I started thinking about this consulting role. And about the time I put out my LLC to start consulting with a little bit of business, this great opportunity came along and it said, you can be a product rep again back in a region like you used to. So I had to show my wife, here's an offer with this, and this, and here's this little piece of consulting. What do you think I should do? And we decided to go down the riskier path and become a little bit more of an entrepreneur. And to me, it was something I probably should have done 5 years earlier because I enjoy it. I really like getting out there in front of folks. And I tell a lot of my customers, my performance review is in every invoice.
Right, exactly. But you know what you did? You took, and it's good that you're in a situation where you have the choice. A lot of young listeners right now, and you young listeners, you should hear this loud and clear, okay? You have options. But regardless of what happens, right, you have to understand what it is you want. And if the reason, the why is more important than the crap you got to go through to get there, you will get there. It might take 1, 2, 3, or 4 stops, but you'll get to where you want to go. And then there'll be something new. But as Casey has demonstrated throughout his career, you stay positive, you get up and dust yourself off, because you and I agreed in an earlier discussion today that you don't measure a person by what they do when they're doing well. You measure a person by how they are when things aren't going well.
Right. That was so true. And a lot of building product manufacturers don't understand that either. They can have the greatest product, the greatest innovation, the greatest brands, but until something goes wrong, that's when you really get measured on your reaction and how you respond positively. And the same is true with individuals. I look at a lot of architects, young architects coming up today have got a really tough challenge. They've got to study for their AREs. They've got an internship that they have to go through, an earning process that's legacy years old. And for them to become a full-blown project architect takes a tremendous investment of time and effort and resources and talent. And you have to be cut out for that mold. And sometimes it's not easy, and not easy at all. So I admire
that architect wants to be an architect, right?
Exactly.
And that's why they do it. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back with Casey, we're going to talk about some reasons why individuals and or businesses don't like change. So we'll see you in a quick minute.
Hi, I'm Patrick Ripple, founding partner of ISA Architectural. I've known that chap right there for well over 20 years.
And what a 20 years it's been. I'm Larry Windsor, partner, vice president of Construction Services. Our third partner, Mike Morehouse, can't be with us today.
We are the Mid-Atlantic's premier sales force for architectural building products and engineered architectural solutions. For over 15 years, we have been providing comprehensive design solutions to architects and designers all across this region, and high-quality economic product solutions to contractors and subcontractors too.
We bring products and people together. We specialize in the building envelope, everything from the weather barrier all the way out to different types of cladding. We fully understand the rain screen principle, and we have an interior portfolio specializing in wood and metal walls and ceilings.
If you're a developer, part of a design team, architect, or interiors, or if you're a contractor, let us help you.
Visit www.isaarchitectural.com and see how we can bring value to your project.
And welcome back, everybody, to Commercial Construction Elevate the Industry podcast, here with our friend and consulting guru, Casey Robb. Before we talk about fixes, right, you always say, let's identify the problem before we can fix it. And I say this, in our construction business we are so far behind in so many ways. Look, it's the backbone of our economy. I believe that. Commercial, residential, in a road, heavy highway, construction, it is a barometer of things to come. But we're really slow at adopting change. So let's look at it from a contractor's perspective. Why do you think, Casey, contractors oftentimes resist change?
Well, I think that's a great question. And one of the reasons I think it's very obvious to me is we're always looking in the rearview mirror. We have this sight on the last successful job, and we get into this mode of success breeds success. If I'm not doing anything wrong, why should I fix it? And I throw that challenge right back to the owner and the professional to say, was that really good enough? Could you have done better? To challenge yourself to think a little bit differently. Don't get stuck in the success rut and never get out of that rut, because you may have even done better than what you had even measured if you were to think boldly and outside that box, that rut that you may have been operating in for all of these years. Or, this is the way I've done it. It's not broke, don't fix it. I think that's a recipe for disaster. And I think a lot of us in the construction side got hit by that change, drastically last spring. I know I still keep this. It's my handy day planner. Remember these?
Oh, yeah.
Mine went out the window March 13th, 2020, when everything I had canceled, and I had to throw it away. And this thing is running my life now, day in, day out. I mean, that's my tool. So did I have to change? Yeah, I was forced to change and to do some things differently. The reason contracting and construction doesn't change faster is because the force really isn't upon them yet. And if it is now, they're starting to feel it and see it. And that's where I think things could really become drastically different. And as you mentioned to me earlier today, you either step up or step out of the way, because change is coming, and it's time to really look at it differently.
Now, I in a recent podcast talk about growing your business, and people have choices to grow their business, right? And this is kind of a shameless plug, but I'm going to do it anyway. There are several specialty contracting scopes of work that one could do if you're a hands-on contractor. But why do contractors not do it? A couple reasons, and they're not invalid, okay? It's that I really don't know the subject matter, right? I don't know it well enough. I don't know how to bid it, can't propose it. I'm not sure I know how to put it in. Who do I buy it from? And what I'm telling them, and part of what I do, and part of probably what you do, is you overcome those things by providing answers. In other words, I will provide them the answers that they need. You don't know how to bid it? We do. You don't know how to put it in? We do. You don't know how to propose it? We do, right? All of those things to reduce the learning curve. Nobody wants to go through a year and a half of learning before they start turning a dollar, so to speak, right? But there's ways to do it, and there are smart ways, intelligent ways to change. But you brought up some reasons why people don't. I couldn't agree more. How would you, as a consultant, work with a new client who's stuck in their old ways of business? They don't know, they have no brand to speak of. It's the same customers, it's the same thing, it's the same trucks they've had for 10 years, and somebody new comes into the business and hires you to turn it around. What would you do?
Wow, that's a loaded one.
Yes, it is.
That's a loaded one. Well, the first thing you said was, if they don't have a brand, I would definitely try to step up the challenge to them to tell me their story, because people remember a story much better than they do a bunch of facts, features, and benefits that here's what we do and here's how we're doing it. They remember a story, and they remember a conversation with a customer rather than a sales pitch. The conversation has to lead to finding out what they have on their plate that's important to fix, accomplish, or avoid, and how can you help fill that need on the other side of the equation, rather than it all being about you and the way you've done it and the way you've thought about it. It has to become about the customer and the story you're compelling people with, and the philosophy that you use to help solve their problems rather than sell them something. No one wants to be sold. Everyone wants to be helped. So you have to change the way you think about it from your perspective, whether you're in construction, building product manufacturing, trying to influence an architect, or trying to influence a big DC design build entity. It has to be on their terms and what you can do to help them. I've heard your podcast on the 10 ways to succeed as a contractor. It's fascinating that more people aren't embracing that and using that business development technique.
Yeah, you said it before. It's about relationships, trust, and all those things. And it's so overused, but it couldn't be more true. Ours is a relationship-driven business, and you just said it. What you don't do with a customer, I asked you what you do. You said what you don't do. You don't go in and sell them. You go in and you talk to them, and you tell them stories. You listen. You relate what you do and what you know. You find out what their needs are, and you mentioned three things. The last one was avoid. What were the first two?
Fix, accomplish, or avoid. I shouldn't be using those on the air, but I do because I think they sum it all up very, very well. You're trying to find out what you can help them solve a problem.
Very, very appropriate. So now you go in and the customer likes you, they like what you do, and you're going to try and impact change. How important is buy-in from top to bottom to get to real change? It's got to be huge, right?
It is huge. And the higher up you get in the organization, the harder it is to get out of that success rut, because you have more people you're responsible for, more bottom line you're responsible for. So why would you want to jump into a different set of circumstances? And I think it all has to evolve back to, what are you truly trying to reward as a business? Are you just about results, or are you trying to reward progress and process and the way you get things done? As you mentioned in your podcast, it's not always about getting that next sale. It's about making an impact on the customers that you're talking with and getting them to, maybe you lost the battle, but you won the war, because they're going to call you on the next one and get you involved where they know you can help even more. So those small wins are really important pieces of the puzzle, and the buy-in from the upper management to get a deal like that done is absolutely critical. I'll give you one example. Right up in North Carolina, I was at an ideation meeting where, rounding up the troops, they got a new product, a new technology, very little brand recognition, and the owner was from the brick industry, and he started telling stories about how his daddy did mass wall construction, and he's the one that led the way on brick veneer, and now all these youngsters are using thin brick and all this. And he had his grandson there in the room, and I looked at he was telling stories about his grandson. He didn't have him in the room. I said, your grandson's going to be looking at you going, why are we even using any brick veneer at all? Thin brick's the only way to go. So it's that evolving change in the industry that makes you wonder why we did it the way we did for years and didn't embrace something new and different. Now, there's always a reason why you'd want to have mass wall construction. I get that, but things are getting thinner and layers are becoming more complex. And as we put buildings together, everyone seems to want to specialize. And they've forgotten the impact of collaboration, working on behalf of the end customer, the owner typically, and how we work as a team matters almost, I think, more than this is my job and I'm not going to do that, or I'm not going to do this. Not included is a really sensitive area, right?
It is. And you're describing what's changing in the industry today. More collaboration,
Yes.
More specialization. And we're going to take another short break. And when we get back, we're going to talk to Casey about technology.
Yes.
Okay? Is it forced change, or is it elective change, or is it both? So we'll see you in a quick minute. Hey, everybody. If you're looking for a strategic business partner who does subcontracting work on the interiors, let me tell you about the CFP Group. They are a minority business enterprise and have been in business for over 20 years. If you're interested, you can contact them by email at cfpgroup1@gmail.com, or call them directly at 410-977-8568. That's 410-977-8568. Take it from me. I've done business with them, and I know they can get the job done. Hey, everybody, welcome back. We're here talking with the consulting expert, Casey Robb. Casey, again, thanks for joining us. When we left, we said we were going to come back and talk about technology. And technology it's ridiculously changed everything. including construction. And one could argue that it's forced change. One could argue that it's elective change. We know it's change. What is your outlook on that?
Well, again, very tough question to answer. I think a lot of it is forced, but I think some of it is selective. And especially for those, I'll be the first to say I'm guilty. I've been slow to embrace new technology, and my younger counterparts have not. They've embraced it much more rapidly than I have, but I've learned a lot from them in what I call mentoring in both directions. A lot of young professionals can do a lot of multi-talented, multitasking things that I can't do as a boomer. I'm just programmed differently. But I have to listen to them to say, wow, that's an interesting thought. Maybe I can adapt that and be more relevant to what I'm doing in my job, in my career. And that's driven by curiosity. That's driven by staying relevant. I mean, can you imagine being a product rep for 30 years and looking in the mirror one day and going, wow, my customers won't call me back. What the heck am I doing wrong? Or can you imagine being a contractor and bidding 30, 40 jobs a week and not getting one or two, even possibilities of success? What am I doing wrong? So there has to be a lot of thought process and soul searching around technology and what that's doing to us. Now, the other side of that that's driving technology, I think, is the lack of skilled labor and our ability to fill that skilled labor void. So we're seeing more technology come into construction projects on everything from GPS to drone technology to building information modeling, moving on into modular and prefabricated components. I'm just seeing an amazing shift in that direction. I saw it before COVID. I don't think we quite saw it happening fast enough. And then when COVID disruption hit, it just kind of accelerated all these tools, because all of a sudden you can't be on the job site to manage things day to day. You almost have to be visual on an app or a computer to visually be on the job site to comment on things that are going wrong, or with a drone going around and measuring performance. So these things are happening faster and faster. And there's a whole segment of investors out there investing in new technology, what I'll call disruptors for the construction industry, because let's face it, we're still a little bit archaic on what we do, and disruption is going to really change the game and help people be more profitable, more successful, and more productive, and as they get these jobs accomplished.
Well said. I want to play a little game with you here.
Okay.
Us old timers, okay? I'm gonna say something like a milestone in technology that I've witnessed, and then I want you to come right back with one. We're just going to keep going until it runs out. All right? You ready?
All
so
right.
My first one. I got a fax machine in 1985, and I thought it was on top of the world. You're up.
I did a lunch and learn in 1986 with a VCR projector in my little TV screen that I carried into the architect's office. And instead of doing the carousel projector, I did the VCR projector. And I thought I was on top of the world, man. I've got a VCR sharing my story.
That is awesome. I got a cell phone, and it wasn't a mobile phone because it was in my car. It cost me $4,500 in 1988. Driving up the New Jersey Turnpike, I called my mom. She was my first call, and she almost fell off the chair when I told her what I was doing. But that was a mobile phone way back when.
That was a mobile phone back when. Okay, when I switched from one manufacturer to another in the mid-90s, I had to come into an office environment that had a computer screen at your desk and a system called Profs. Now, if you're familiar with Profs, that was the original IBM software set that a lot of big companies embraced and used to do email, sales reports, all kinds of stuff. And it was all on this computer screen. It looked like DOS, It was so amazing that all this stuff we used to do with intercompany office memos and stuff like that, it's all on this computer now. It's all on this box. I thought I was pretty slick.
So I got my first Nextel two-way radio telephone.
Oh, Nextel.
In 1996. And it was like, if you ever watched the show Combat, those big Army radios, it was like massive, but I could press it and talk to my buddies in Jersey. It was fun.
Nextel was awesome, man. That was a
Tell me you had a
big
Blueberry,
market.
BlackBerry. Tell me you had a BlackBerry.
I did. I had a BlackBerry.
Okay.
But before I had a BlackBerry, I had an overhead projector, and I used to use those grease screens really quick to teach class. That's how I taught class, was on an overhead projector. And then when I went to a computer, a simple PowerPoint slide, I was like, wow, what's this? This is so cool. What's PowerPoint? And then we ended up getting death by PowerPoint. But yes, I had a BlackBerry.
We tell those stories because we were the guys that would driving up the highway during the middle of the business day, pull over and get on a greasy, disgusting public phone, right? And talk for half an hour while you were sitting there making no progress. What my point here is, I think as baby boomers, we've been fortunate to see a tremendous amount of change with the internet and all of the software products we have now. As a contractor, I always say, I don't want information or tools just to have them. I want information and tools that I can use. Okay. So let's talk about today's market. You mentioned GPS. I will say this: industrialized construction, some people call it modular, prefabrication, is here to stay. And the reason being is that technology today has enabled the manufacturing to merge with construction. And that's what we're seeing now because we have lack of manpower, right? We have high safety standards, quality control, which is ridiculous, right? Lean building practices, how do you minimize waste? All those things. But let's talk about technology, from your perspective. What's really hot right now? What should new companies and even old companies be focused on?
Well, I'd love to go back to 1957 and tell you the story about my Wix home example, but I won't bore you with that because back then panelized construction was going on strong, and then it shifted and it changed and it came back. But I think the hottest thing right now is not just prefabrication from a model, a building information model that detects all these conflicts and errors and things that are going on a job site. I think what we're seeing now is the challenge to do more with every improvement we see. And that goes all the way back to Deming's philosophy of, quality improvement. If I see someone taking a building information model and putting it into practice in the field by doing something assembly-wise that's something different than they did before, it may have gotten rid of a few jobs, it may have replaced a little bit of skilled labor, but it improved the performance and the efficiency and the safety all at once. The next step is, what's that going to look like next year? Because this change is happening fast. So we may see a gang of conduit prefabricated in a site and then erected on a big metal building, for example. Or we may see a set of ductwork that's modeled on a building information platform and then fabricated in a shop. But what I'm seeing now is this modular grease duct showing up on a job site and literally plugging right into the hotel kitchen that's being built. And that's creating a whole new dynamic for people delivering results in the construction market.
Interestingly enough, Season 2, Episode 1, Brian Termel, the VP of Public Relations and Strategic Initiatives with one of your former employers, the AGC, right? Okay. He talks about prefab too, and he said prefab's been around, it's been around for a long time. I just did a whole episode on one. But bottom line is he related a story in Disney. And he said the whole thing was prefab. It was great. Everything came to the shop or to Disney already done, and none of it fit. Yeah. So when people maybe 10 years ago said that building information modeling, BIM, is really just a deliverable to the owner, baloney today. It's a tool. Embrace it, right? Yes. Embrace it. Be better than the next company. Differentiate yourself. What advice, and general advice, would you give business owners about adapting to change? What would you say?
Well, I compare the story from NASA early on and how every year NASA worked towards the next year's budget. The next year's budget was what mattered. Now you look at NASA and they hit the wall with the Challenger. Unfortunately, disaster happened. Things didn't go quite like they'd planned, right? So today we look back and we see privatization going on in the space program with Elon Musk and others racing to get people into space. What's Elon Musk doing different? He's an individual. He is a entrepreneur. He's a very successful entrepreneur that's got multiple things going on with very great ideas. And every time I see one of those rockets blow up, I'm going, wow, how does he afford to do that? I think you got to plan for a few blowups in your business to be more successful down the road. And I use that story. Elon Musk is he's a strange individual, but boy, he's got something really talented going on with his organization, and that is the ability to fail, measure success, and move ahead. And I just think that is an amazing concept that we have to continue to fail forward and learn from our mistakes and be able to embrace the next level of technology, because we're going to be landing spaceships all over the place and not having to worry about the capturing the reentry. It's going to land right there on the pad. So that's the kind of things I think business owners have to embrace. Is it's not all about results. It's about change, and it's about adapting to change and doing things a little bit smarter and a little bit differently.
And I'll tell you, progressive thinkers, and if you're not one, figure out what it is you want and try to figure out a better way to get there.
Mm-hmm.
That's great advice. Fail forward. I love that phrase, fail forward. So you're saying, look, be prepared for failure, not that you're going to go out of business. Understand the level of failure that you can deal with, right? That you can get through. But don't be afraid. Don't let the fear of failure get a hold of you and paralyze you. Now, I will say this. If you're a young person and you're trying to figure out what industry you want to get in, you got choices.
Yeah.
Now, you can say, why would I get into construction? Well, if you're into technology, I think it'd be a great idea to get into construction because there's such a need. We're behind.
Absolutely.
You could become a superstar a hell of a lot faster in construction, right? If you embrace technology and you help people like myself and Casey and other leaders in business who aren't ever going to be super savvy in technology, get the job done. What an opportunity. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. I'm seeing it happen too. Schools of architecture, for example, are the architects of today really have to have a determination to design and create concepts that are going to make imagination happen, right? But a lot of them, it isn't necessarily the fabric they want. They want to do more with building and creating and actually constructing. And my advice to many of these, and I think they're all getting a taste of that, is there's nothing wrong with construction. Go into construction technology. Look at the schools of construction at Auburn and Purdue and some of these other great colleges and universities that have embraced this next generation of technology. They offer just a great career opportunity and a really cool place for you to be successful. Now, I will share a quick story. I've been watching the BIM evolution of building information modeling. It's been slow to adopt. The architects have been taking it so far on design. The contractors have embraced it hugely to do interference objection, creating analysis on estimates, getting things fabricated, all this. So we had a program 2 years ago by a guy named Ryan Woods from Beck here in Atlanta. Beck is a design build entity. And they shared with us how they took the Phipps Plaza renovation and literally took a modeling of the existing property and how they were going to strategically disassemble and reassemble the renovation at Phipps. Fast forward 2 years later, we had another program on them building the Naboo Hotel next door to Phipps, which was also a part of this deal. And the young guy that taught that one was their leader of information technology for Beck. He graduated from Georgia Tech in like 2009, and he has accelerated his way into a top construction design role principal at that organization very, very quickly. And he is just amazing how brilliant he's brought the technology piece into the construction piece and helped communicate better with the contractor's hammer. It was a really impressive story.
And his title was leading information technologist,
Yes.
LIT.
Yep.
As you were talking, I'm thinking, your typical IT person, like your CIO,
Right.
they're responsible for everybody's internet and firewalls and how people are using the day-to-day technology. But I got to tell you, for you business owners out there, and for you younger people, or maybe not younger people that want to embrace technology, think about hiring somebody to lead your technology initiative, especially if you're in a construction business. I don't know. I hear about new things every day. If I had one person to focus on that, and I could meet with them once a week, I'm talking to you business owners, right? And that you could fill me in. I like that. I don't like that. I don't like that too early. That is something we need to do today. It's an investment. It's an investment in your future. So in finishing up here, Casey, we talk about change. Some of it is forced, some of it is elective or selective, but we shouldn't be afraid of it. We should recognize our risk tolerance, understand that we can fail forward, and that's not a bad thing. That could be a very good thing. We learn from our mistakes, and like you, we stay positive throughout the entire process. I always say when one door closes, you heard that one, another one opens if you're looking for it. So you've convinced me. I'm open to change. Any parting words you'd like to tell our audience, Casey, about change?
No, I think for us, it's also a matter of staying relevant. And if you don't embrace some knowledge of the technology and what it's capable of, it doesn't mean you have to do it, but you have to understand that it's changing the game dramatically in how we get things done. I'll give you one last story and I'll wrap it up from here. But a young architect that I met back in the, I'd say 2009-10 era, was asking his questions just very bluntly and openly. Why isn't your organization adopting this and doing that and changing? And most of the industry organizations I've belonged to and seen are pretty well stuck in their ways. They're in that rut, and for them to adopt change has been a very tough challenge. But I've watched this young man go from architecture to building information modeling, leading the organization. He led the organization at HOK. He then resigned his architecture degree and everything he'd put his investment in, and got on the data management side and the IT side of things. And as we were going through this COVID disruption, I was asking him how he was engaging with his customers. Are you using emails? Are you using phone calls? What are you doing? And he shared with me his ability on social media with LinkedIn to connect his calendar with his LinkedIn message to ask for people for 15 minutes of their time on their terms, on their schedule, and lock it into his schedule. He said his results are about 78% successful at getting that first discussion through that flexibility, that ability to connect. And he's not waiting on a phone call. He's not waiting on a response to an email. That's the junk folder. He's waiting on real-time evidence to say, okay, here's my chance not to pitch my products, but to tell my story, ask this person a little bit about theirs and what they may want to try to be doing to solve their problems. So, and then he gets that next engagement based on that initial engagement and does it the same way. And the next one's 30 minutes. The next one's an hour. Maybe it's several people, but he's helping them solve their problems. And it just fascinated me, the different way people are engaging today. So I'll leave you with that is, if your phone isn't ringing, if you're concerned about your relevance, listen to others. They have things to learn from you. That mentoring from what you've experienced is important to them, but it's even more important to learn back in return what they're doing differently and how that might result in something better for myself. So it's that mentoring in both directions, I think, is absolutely critical for us moving forward.
Well, thank you for everything. Before you go, why don't you tell the audience how they can reach you?
My direct email is cfrobb@comcast.net, or an easier one to remember is goldenrep1@gmail.com. I use that one as well. That's for my speaking side of the business. And then as far as a cell phone number, I give my cell out to just about anyone, 770-714-5922. And I'm on LinkedIn. So connect with me on LinkedIn. You can see a host of different things in my LinkedIn profile and connect with me there as well.
That's awesome. And Robb is with 2 B's, correct?
Yes.
There you
CF
go.
Robb. That's Casey Robb at that's on the internet. It's on the LinkedIn site, and ROBB is the last name. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, listen, if you haven't already gotten the idea, you want to move forward, you want to be happier, you want to be more fulfilled, embrace change. Not all change is going to happen. You don't have to choose everything. And things are going to happen that are out of your control. But embrace it. Make the most of it. So again, Casey, thank you so much for joining us today.
Really enjoyed it, David. Thank you.
We enjoyed it as well. And for everybody listening, till next week, stay safe and stay tuned. So if you have questions about starting, building, or selling your business or anything in between, contact me 2 ways. Go to my website, adicorp.com, that's adicorp.com, it's my last name spelled backwards, or visit me on LinkedIn, go to David Procida and leave your messages there. Visit us on our YouTube channel at Elevate the Industry. Check us out on Instagram at Elevate Industry. Subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. Either way, we'll talk next week, and between now and then, stay safe and stay tuned. All the music for the episodes, including our theme song Elevate, was provided by DMV producer Trey Skills. If you like what you heard, follow Trey Skills on Instagram at Trey Skills, TREYSKILLZ. That's TREYSKILLZ.
Elevate.